kind of a TED Talk to start off. So I wanted to talk about something that you probably don't think about when you think about real estate or investing, and that's relationships. So I'm going to talk for a few minutes about a couple of different kinds of relationships and if they're healthy or unhealthy, and then kind of bring it all back together. So starting off, I want to introduce you to a girl named Sarah, a woman named Sarah, right? She meets this guy named Ben. She really likes him a lot, but Sarah has some issues, and she has some issues that she doesn't think she's necessarily worthy of Ben. And so she has this problem and this challenge of sabotaging herself. So every time they start getting too close, she does something to mess it up and push him away, right? Every single time that, she'd love to have kids with him, but she's never close enough to him for long enough for them to be able to have a good relationship to be able to have kids. And so she goes her whole life with this relationship. Does anybody know anybody that just kind of sabotages their... So part of that is that she's afraid of being happy. Or this person, Sarah, is afraid of a relationship with Ben, right? Now, is that a healthy relationship? No, that's not a healthy relationship. Sarah, and the other problem with Sarah is that she doesn't talk to anybody about it. So is Sarah ever going to learn how to have a healthy relationship if she doesn't talk to anybody about it? No. I hope your name's not Sarah, by the way. No? Okay, good. Now, on the other side of this relationship spectrum is a guy named Sam. Okay? And we call Sarah sabotaging Sarah because that's just what she does. So this guy, Sam, meets a beautiful woman, and her name is Susan, okay? So he's a little bit different, though, in that he's not afraid of a relationship. Actually, he meets her, and they are like this right off the bat, right? But what his issue is that he's afraid of losing her. So we call him Stalker Sam, right? He follows her everywhere she goes. He is happiest when he knows exactly where she is all of the time. Right? You guys know somebody like this? All right. So, and matter of fact, he wants to have children with her too, but he's so afraid of what could potentially happen to her in the childbirth process and all that kind of stuff that they won't have kids together because he's so afraid of losing her because he's holding on to her so tight. If he could lock her in a basement and keep her in a basement, he would be super happy, and that would be just the best thing that could happen because he knows exactly where she is all the time, and he's able to control exactly what happens with her. Now, is that a healthy relationship? No, right? And with Sam, is he ever going to get better unless he talks to someone about it? No. You know, and actually, I brought Sam and Ben and Susan with me. Would you guys like to meet Ben and Susan and see what they think about this whole thing? Yeah. Okay. It's Susan B. Anthony and Ben Franklin. So the relationships that I just talked about are the relationships that most people, to one degree or another, have with money. They're either savers or they're spenders, right? How many people here would consider themselves a saver, right? Or your parents a saver? How many people would say that they're a spender? So I'm a spender. Okay, that was my problem, is I'm a spender. The challenge with both of those relationships is they both come from a place of fear. Typically, savers are afraid of losing the money, so they hold on to it as tight as they can. They put it in a savings account, and they will not touch that for anything at all. And spenders, on the other hand, and my dad was a spender. He was afraid of money. And savers are afraid of having money. They don't think they're worthy of it. They're not willing to spend the time to create a relationship with it, so they want to distance themselves from it as soon as they get it. And so they're broke all of the time, right? And the challenge with money is that nobody ever, or for the most part, very few people talk about it. I know when I was growing up, I never had a conversation with my parents about money. Have any of you had like a real conversation with your parents about money? 1, 2, 2, 3. Okay, which is higher than most, actually, because most people, you learn from two ways. One, you hear what people talk about, right? Money is the root of all evil. It's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into the kingdom of God. The love of money, or money is at the root of all evil. Have you all heard those expressions, right? Which says that money is bad and it's something that if you have it, you're not going to be happy. Or you have parents that influence you or relatives that influence you. And what you see them doing is what you find natural. So if your dad was a saver, there's a really good chance that you're going to be a saver because you pick up. Have any of you seen Inside Out? You seen that movie Inside Out, right? You know how there's all the marbles, and those marbles are all your memories, and there's your core memories, and they go into your library, and those core memories are there, and you don't even necessarily know that they are there. Well, that's how most people's relationship with money comes from, is those core memories from what they have grown up with and what they have seen. So how do you fix that, right? Because if you're a spender, how do you figure out how to become a balanced person or a saver? And there's an expression called ownership sinks stewardship. And it took me a while to understand it, but I'll see if I can explain it to you guys. When you talk about ownership, let me ask you a question. If someone gave you $1 million, what would you do with it?
Invest.
Invest. You're saying invest because I'm here talking about it. What would you really do with it? Buy a house. Set up a business? Okay. What else? What else would you really? What would you do with it? Buy a car. What else? Shoes? You should buy shoes, right? But yes? Pay for college. Okay, so those are all the right answers. The real answer is that you would spend it and it would be gone. And you know how I know that's the real answer? Because statistically, 95% of people who win the lottery are broke within 5 years, no matter how big the number is. So that means even though all of you say, 50% of this room said that I would invest it or buy a house or all that, the reality is that 95% of the people are broke within 5 years. And that's ownership, right? You get the money, it's $1 million, it's yours, you take it, you're like, let's go spend it, right? Now I'm going to flip that and use the exact same number of $1 million, except I'm going to change the scenario a little bit. So your best friend comes to you, so I want you to think about your best friend. They come to you and it's maybe 5 years from now, and they have a little girl who's 2 years old. And they say, I've got cancer and I'm going to die. And my life insurance policy is $1 million. And I'm going to will you that $1 million, but I want you to use that $1 million to make sure that my baby is okay. Are you going to make different decisions?
Yeah.
Every single one of you would, right? Because you would have stewardship of that money. And so a healthy relationship with money is a combination of ownership and stewardship. So if you are a saver, the challenge is that you have to create a space where you don't own that money, that you're taking stewardship of that money. If you're a spender like I was, and the only way that I could do that is I created an account that I called my Not My Money account. And literally in my bank, I named it Not My Money. So every time I got into the bank, because for me, a savings account, and I'd always had a savings account, a savings account was an emergency fund. You get a flat tire and you need new tires, you go into your savings account and you pull that money out and your savings account is back to zero, right? So I had to create a barrier to my money that I called my Not My Money account. And I created in my mind a commitment that I wasn't going to spend that money no matter what, because it wasn't my money, it was for the errand that I wanted it to be. And that's how my wealth building journey started, was changing one account and creating one account that I labeled Not My Money so that I would have stewardship of it. And I've done really well. I have a $30,000 Rolex on my wrist right now and 6 more of them at home that are investments, right? But it's because I took stewardship of my money. And I can guarantee this to every one of you, you can all be millionaires. becoming a millionaire is easy. It really, really is. It's, are you willing to put the disciplines in place that allow the money to start working for you to become a millionaire, right? So I'm going to end it with this, and then we'll open up questions. We'll talk about real estate. We'll talk about money if you guys want to. We'll talk about investing, whatever you guys want to do. There are 2 books that I would recommend that changed my life and that have changed thousands of people's financial lives. The first one is called The Richest Man in Babylon. It was written in 1937. It's a super easy read. It's big letters, big words, short book, but it has the 10 principles to build wealth. And if you read this book and you start implementing these things, even at your age, I know kids in their early 20s that have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in the bank because they put these systems in place. The other one, and Mr. Wilderman, this was the first book that he read, and it was probably the second book that I read that influenced me the most, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And this is where he talks about, he has 2 dads. One, his biological dad, who was a professor who had a paycheck every single month, and how he lived and worked with money. And then the other one was his best friend's dad, who was a business owner, who taught him a very different relationship with money. Both of these books I would definitely recommend for you guys to read, and they will change your lives. As a matter of fact, I'll do this. How many people are in this room?
24.
24. Okay, so I won't buy the book for you because you have to do it yourself. But if you buy this book, read it, and write me a report, I'll pay you $50. So I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, but for this to happen, you have to spend some time and invest in yourself. So the book's probably $10 or $15, maybe even less used. You could probably get it cheaper than that. But if you read this book and write a report and either reach out to me or give it to Mr. Williman, I'll pay you $50 to do it. That's how firmly I believe that all of you can be wealthy and that this book can help you. So.
But that's only for people in this room now, so don't go out and tell your
Yeah, I don't
friends.
want like 800 students sending me notes.
You'll have to, so if you're not on this list, make sure you get on this list before you walk out the door, just to make sure, because that'll be the first thing I check.
All right,
Okay?
so let's talk about fun stuff. What do you guys want to know about? So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I worked in retail for a long time. Was broke that whole time. I got a pay raise every 6 months for 10 years, and was as broke the day that I got hired as the day that I left the company, making $125,000 a year because I didn't have a good relationship with money, right? I got into real estate. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and no savings, no anything, so the only option I had was to work my tail off and become successful to build a business. And so over the past 16 years, the average real estate agent sells 6 houses a year. My team will sell 200 houses this year here in Minnesota. So we built a really good business. I am an investor, so I own 23 houses right now. I'm closing on a commercial building tomorrow, actually in Minnesota, so I can answer a lot of your questions about investing and questions you have about real estate. So what questions do you guys have? Yes? My biggest advice?
Besides reading the book.
Read that freaking book. I'm very comfortable talking about money. And have surrounded myself and find people who are comfortable talking about money, and talk to money about people that I don't even know. I'll ask anybody their net worth, I'll ask anybody where they invest, what they do for work, what they're excited about, because nobody talks about money, it's something that everybody wants to talk about, right? I mean, if you guys all had a place that you could talk about money, and everybody was looking for you to be successful and to help you be successful, would you be a part of that? Raise your hand if you would be a part of that. Yeah, right? Because you don't have anybody to talk to about money. So I would say that a piece of advice that I would give is become comfortable talking about money. You know, most people associate who they are with their net worth, and you either are less than or greater than someone depending on how much money they're worth, right? Go ahead.
So when do you think is a good time to like open up a retirement account? If it's every like good time of every retirement account?
That's a great question.
And what's it called? What kind of account?
So there's two different ways to invest. There's passive, and then there's hands-on investing, right? So passive investing would be a retirement account. And it's never, my son's 18 and we've had a retirement account for him since he was 16 years old. If you put, I think it's $200 a month in your retirement account, from age 21, you'll retire a millionaire. And most people, more than a millionaire. Multi-millionaire. So one of my good friends, and she's older, she's retiring, so I think she was 61 or 62, and had never had a really great job where she was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. But when we started talking about money, I said, you know, where are you at? She goes, you know, my dad told me when I was 16 to put 10% of everything I make into an account, an investment account, and so I've done that my whole life. And she had over $4 million in her retirement account. Now, the challenge for most people is that everybody wants to get rich now, and life is long, right? You know, Warren Buffett, who is a multi-billionaire, a lot of his wealth didn't come, even though he was consistently investing. There's what happens, it's called a hockey stick effect. And it's where I do a show with a friend of mine for a group of millionaires. It's once a month, and we interview guys that have gone from $1 million net worth to $10 million net worth. And we track their net worth every year since they've started tracking it. And what happens is there's this really flat growth, and then you start having what's called the compound effect, where your money starts working for you instead of you start working for your money, and you start seeing this. With every single one of them, it was this boom, grind, and then they started getting momentum, and then all of a sudden they would go from $3 million to $6 million to $10 million to $15 million. Just boom, because they put the work in. And, you know, nothing is given, everything is earned in life. I think if you want a real piece of advice, living by that mantra, nothing is given, everything is earned, will put you in a really good place. What else? Because I can talk on. I'll just start freestyling. So go ahead. Anybody else got questions? Yes.
How exactly do you find your property that you want to buy?
That's another good question. It depends on what you're looking for. So if you're buying an investment, you're talking about an investment property, or okay, so an investment property. Investing in real estate, when you buy your home that you're going to live in, that's an emotional purchase, right? That's primarily what I do, is I help people buy their first home or their second home, and they walk in and they look through the house, and one of them is typically a feeler and one's a thinker, and the one that walked through the house that's a feeler says, this feels like home. And that's how they make the decision on what house they're going to buy. Is it feels like a place they can raise their kids. It feels like a place that they can do it. But for investors, it's very different. It's all just a math equation, right? It's how much is it going to cost to buy the property? How much do I have to put down? What is the payment going to be on the property? And then how much am I going to get as rent for that property? And so everybody has their own little different equation. And there's a couple of different ways to buy properties. You can buy for appreciation, which means you buy the house for $200,000, you're in a market where the prices just consistently go up, right? So it's 206, 212, 215, 250, and then 300,000, and you get net worth out of that, but you don't necessarily get a lot of cash flow. Or you can buy a house for cash flow, and that's a different house in a different location, because that house is going to typically cost a lot less. The rents are going to be a little bit higher. You're going to make money every month out of the property, but you're not going to get that appreciation. So if you buy it for $150 today, 10 years from now, it may be worth $165,000. But you're getting $300 a month cash flow every single month. So it really just depends on what kind of investing you want to do, because typically it's one or the other. So I personally have always been an appreciation investor, because I have a business that pays for my monthly lifestyle, right? So I don't need cash flow every single month. So when I buy a property, I'm looking for something that I may break even on. I may not make a dime on that property today, but it's appreciating every single month. And so I focus on building my net worth, and then I can always turn that net worth into cash flow when I want to. And then I have friends that are the exact opposite. Everything they purchase is all about cash flow, and those are both the right decision because it's the right decision for you. Yes?
You said when you started, you have to grind and grind and grind. Can you elaborate on that? Like, how did you start? Like, what was your first,
I didn't sell, I sold one house in my first 6 months, and I was working my tail off, right? So,
were you working for a company?
I was, so, and that's, we just had this conversation. So when you get into real estate, and when you talk to most real estate agents, they think of themselves as employees of PMZ or Coldwell Banker or Keller Williams or whatever. When you decide to get into real estate, you're going into business for yourself. You don't get a paycheck. You don't get a salary. You don't have insurance. You don't have anything at all. You are on your own to be able to do it. And there's three things that equal success in real estate. It's activities, it's skills, and it's relationships. So when you get into real estate, and when I say relationships, it's reputation, it's people know, liking, and trusting you, that know that you're gonna do a good job for them, right? So when you get into real estate, you don't have that. They may know, like, and trust you, but they don't know you're gonna do a good job for them yet. And then the skills, you don't have the skills yet. And so the biggest thing, and when I talk about the grind, is the activities. You have to contact a lot of people. I mean, on our team, we have guys that make 200 phone calls a week and talk to people, looking for people who are looking to buy and sell. It is one of the best businesses in the world to get into. I love it with all of my heart, but you don't try real estate out. Real estate tries you out, right? You have to earn the right to be successful. And so that is, it's doing open houses, it's knocking on doors, it's calling people. It is a very proactive business, real estate is, because, you know, my friends don't lay up at night going, man, I hope Aaron's okay. I hope he's selling houses. They're just living their lives. I mean, we all just live our lives. So it's my job to stay in touch with them and say, hey, if you know anybody who's thinking about buying or selling real estate, I would love the introduction to them so that I can make you look like a hero, right? So I can make you look like you did a good thing to your friends, because I'm going to take care of your friends in such a way that they are going to thank you for that referral. So it's doing all of those activities, and then over time, 85% of real estate agents are gone in the first 3 years. It's a pretty high dropout rate for real estate, because most people don't understand how hard it is. You know, there's no ceiling on how much you can make. I mean, you can make $1 million a year in real estate, but there is no floor either. You can make absolutely zero also. The average real estate agent makes about $35,000 a year, which is not a lot of money, right? I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be willing to risk everything for $35,000 a year before taxes. The top agents, I mean, some of the friends and some of my weekly calls and groups, I mean, three of my buddies are making over $2 million this year having real estate teams, because they treat it like a business. They've worked, they've put in the time, and then they've surrounded themselves with people who are also success-minded. You know, and that's another piece of advice I'd give you. Surround yourself with people who want to be successful. You know, if all of your friends are making $25,000 a year, and you're sitting in a room with them and you go, I want to make $100,000 next year, they're going to look at you and they'll be like, dude, you are high. what did you smoke? Because that's not gonna happen. But if you're in a room where everybody's making 100,000 or they're making 500,000 and you're making 25,000 and you go, I wanna make $100,000 this year, they're gonna go, well, that's easy. That's easy. Because they're all doing it, right? Now, is it gonna be easier to get to that 100,000 if you're surrounded by people who are all making at least 100,000?
Yeah.
Yes, right? And so, as you go through life, and this is I'm covering a lot of stuff and I'm kind of giving you guys a fire hose, so my apologies, but I am gonna talk about relationships for a second, like real talk about relationships. One of my mentors told me once that you have different levels of friends, right? You have what you call 5-minute friends. And all of you have 5-minute friends here at school and in your life. Those are the people that you love, but you go after 5 minutes, you go, nothing good is gonna happen if I stay with you for much longer than 5 minutes, right? It's like, they're just not the people that are going to help you be successful. So the next level up is your 1-hour friends. And they're a little bit better quality than your 5-minute friends, but they're still right there. I mean, after an hour, you're like, okay, this is good. And then you've got your dinner friends, which are the people that you go out to dinner with, you hang out with, you have a great night, and it's nice to see them. And then you have weekend friends, where you go to Napa for the weekend, and you guys have a great time, and you're like, everybody's refreshed, but a weekend is good enough. And then what we're all looking for are vacation friends. Vacation friends are the ones that you go to Hawaii for a week with, you party, you hang out, you're together a bunch, you give each other space, and at the end of a week, you guys are, you're both filled up, and you're refreshed, and you're ready to go take on the world because you're both providing value to each other, and you pull out your phones and you say, when are we doing this again, right? So if you go through life, and it's okay to categorize your friends, it really is. Love them for where they are in your life. And we have friends that used to be weekend friends for us that aren't even 5-minute friends now. Because we've grown and they haven't. And so we see them for 5 minutes, we love on them with all of our heart for 5 minutes, and then we go hang out with our weekend and our vacation friends, because those are the people that are gonna help us and me become the person who I want to be. Does that make sense? So it's okay to let a relationship go. If they're a 5-minute friend, let them be a 5-minute friend. Come on, hit me some more, guys. What else?
What's your opinion on wholesaling?
It's a great business, and it's a grind too. I mean, wholesaling is, and do you guys know what wholesaling is? Okay, so what wholesaling is you don't necessarily have your real estate license, but you go find a house that is run down, or someone has passed away, or something's wrong with it, and you say, I'll pay you, and I'll just pick a number, $200,000 for this house, and the house is worth $230,000 or $240,000. And you go and you find someone who's willing to buy that house for $220,000, and you wholesale it to them. So you sell it to an investor, and you make the $20,000 on, it's a spread. So you make the $20,000 on the spread. I have a lot of friends that have a whole lot that have really great wholesaling and flipping businesses, and I flip houses as well. Go ahead.
When wholesaling, can't you go negative?
You can go negative in anything. Any investment can go negative. So wholesaling, it's all about knowing your numbers, and if you're buying a house at 200 or you make a commitment at 200, if nobody's willing to buy it at 200 and the only way you can sell it is to sell it at 190, you're going to lose money. So you need to make sure that you're buying out of value. So you got to buy at 200 knowing that it's worth 220 or 230. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I've got 5. Go ahead.
So can you explain what it's like to be a real estate agent and the different other jobs in real estate that you deal with? Because I know there's people that work under you that aren't agents that still help you
Yes.
facilitate things.
Yes. So real estate has really changed a lot. So I have a team. So I have 14 people that work for the West Experience now. It is my business. So I have agents that work for me. And then I have showing assistants for them that are basically like agents, but they're on a salary instead of commission. And they show houses for my agents. And then then I have there's office staff for agents. You know, I've got my operations manager, my director of operations, he is a professional that helps run my whole business. And then we have different people who come in with different jobs. We have 3 people who work in the Philippines, and they're my virtual assistants. So they log in every single day to help us be successful. There's appraisal services. You could be an appraiser and make a really good living in real estate. There's title and escrow that when you purchase a house, there's a process that you go through before it closes where everybody makes sure that the title is clear and that there isn't anything that can go wrong with the purchase of the house. So there's a whole industry there of people in the title and escrow and title industry, and then there's lending also. You know, if you're a lender, then you work with me to help someone get qualified, to help them be able to qualify to purchase a house, or to give them the ability to marry a bank to be able to purchase a house. And then, you know, day to day, it's, you know, we have our activities. We spend 8:30 to 10:30 every single morning is prospecting. That's calling our clients and calling people to find out who they are. We do a team huddle every day at 9 o'clock so that, because we are surrounding ourselves with other people who want to be successful. And then the rest of the day is spent showing houses, talking to potential listings or listing houses. We've got photography services that we use, so you can be a photographer in the real estate industry and be successful. We have pest services, and we have home inspection services. There is this huge industry where you can find success in real estate that are all a part of real estate. Does that answer what you were looking for?
Yeah.
Yes. You know, so I think we've got just a couple of minutes left. Any more questions? Yes.
Can real estate be a side, like a side job or like a side hustle?
I would tell you that the answer is no. It really needs, now if you are starting to do it, if you're thinking about getting into real estate, find a team and go full time, because they're gonna be able to help you be successful much quicker than when you do it by yourself. Real estate is a side hustle. It took me 3 years before I felt like I was an agent, true. And that I had a sustainable business to be able to live my life. And so as a side hustle, if you're working 10 or 15 hours a week, you may do a deal here or a deal there, but that's gonna push you out to 9 years before you have the same momentum that you would at 3 years if you were working at full time. And I mean, my guys right now, everybody on my team, if they've been with me more than a year, they're making over $100,000 a year right now. So it's a really great business to be in. Yes?
Did COVID affect you in any?
It was an opportunity. So anytime something bad happens and everybody else is freaking out, it's an opportunity for you to be successful if you look at it as an opportunity. So our business actually grew through COVID because we worked on it. And every single downturn that there's been, if you look at it as an opportunity, there's opportunity. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you.